The sky was torn with fire. From orbit, glowing trails of enemy ships pierced the clouds like falling stars. The peaceful kingdom of Elenara, ruled by the alien royal family of the Varelian race, was under attack. Their shields had held for days. But now the capital's final defense was breaking. Civilians ran through the marble streets, frightened and lost, while palace guards scrambled to hold the front gates. In the middle of this chaos, a young alien princess no older than 8 clung to her caretaker's hand. Her name was Alira, daughter of the Queen of Elenara. Her long silver-blue hair shimmered under the glow of burning towers. Her eyes, deep with confusion and fear, searched for her mother, but the queen had been forced into a secure chamber. Alira had been separated in the rush. Then the alarms screamed louder. The sky roared again. A large enemy pod crashed into the outer wall, and flames rushed through the corridor. The caretaker screamed, shielding the child, but collapsed from the blast. Alira stumbled, tears falling, calling for anyone at all. And then he appeared. Out of the smoke, a boy emerged. Not Varelian. Not even alien. He was human. His armor didn't belong to any kingdom. It was dented, dirty, and too big for him. He couldn't have been older than 10. His face was scratched, his lip was bleeding, but his eyes burned with something she had never seen before: defiance. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed her hand and said just one word: "Run." And she did. Together they dashed through the ruins. He dodged falling debris, kicked through doors, and shielded her when more blasts hit close. He found an underground passage used by workers and pulled her inside. The sounds of war faded behind them as they slipped into the dark. She didn't ask who he was. He didn't explain. There was no time. Only his hand in hers, warm and steady. When they reached the forest edge, far from the city, the boy turned to her, gave her his water, and smiled. "You're safe now." But the moment was brief. A dropship, friendly to her people, finally landed. Soldiers rushed out, calling her name. The Queen's Guard had found her. In the confusion, the boy stepped back. She reached for him, but one of the soldiers pulled her away. Her voice drowned in shouts and engines. When she turned again, he was gone. The Queen was safe. The palace was rebuilt. The war ended months later, but the boy vanished. Not even a name. No one had seen him before or after. People called it a ghost story, but Alira never forgot. 12 years passed. Now a young woman of royal grace, Alira stood in the same palace courtyard, no longer a scared child, but the future queen of Elenara. Her crown shimmered. Her emerald dress flowed like water. Many came to see her now: ambassadors, warriors, even suitors. Yet her heart stayed locked away, haunted by one blurry memory. A boy with fire in his eyes. She remembered the way he had looked at her, not like a princess, not like someone above, but like someone worth saving. And across the stars, on a distant colony world, a young man stepped off a ship. His armor was still old, still scratched. But his eyes hadn't changed. He didn't know he was walking toward her again, and she didn't know that the human her people had hired as a visiting engineer was the same boy who once saved her life. But fate remembered, and fate had plans. Asterisk, the palace was preparing for a major event. Delegates from nearby planets were arriving, and among them were engineers from Earth invited to help upgrade Elenara's ancient starship systems. It was meant to be a show of peace and cooperation. The Queen herself had requested the presence of human engineers, saying they brought new ways of thinking. Princess Alira stood on the high balcony, watching the Earthship land gently. In the royal hangar, her hands were clasped behind her back, but her thoughts were far from calm. She didn't know why, but her heart beat faster. Something felt familiar. Below, a group of human workers stepped off the ship, some in uniforms, others in utility suits. Among them was a man who walked differently, not stiff like a soldier, not nervous like a guest. He moved like someone who had seen too much and trusted too little. He didn't notice the eyes watching him from above. His name was Kale. He didn't know why he had accepted this job. It was supposed to be a simple contract, 3 weeks of repair work and back home. But something had pulled him to Elanara, something unfinished. A memory that scratched at the edge of his dreams. A little girl with glowing eyes and a burning city behind her. He couldn't remember much, just the fire, the running. The feeling of holding someone's hand tighter than anything else in the world. Alira left the balcony without a word. She didn't know why, but she needed to see the humans up close. She told her guards she would visit the hangar personally to greet the Earth team, surprising everyone. Royals never did that. When she arrived, the humans lined up to greet her. Most bowed awkwardly, not used to her presence. Kale didn't bow. He simply stood there, respectful but calm. He raised his eyes and met hers, and everything stopped. She couldn't breathe. His face was older, sharper, but those eyes, those same eyes filled with quiet fire, looked right through her. For a moment, the sounds of the hangar faded. It was just him and her. She opened her mouth to say something, but nothing came out. The memories slammed into her like a wave. The broken corridor, the boy's voice, the water bottle in her hand. He looked at her too, confused. He didn't know her name, didn't recognize the royal clothes or the jeweled crown. But something deep in him whispered, "You've seen her before." The Queen's advisor stepped in. Breaking the moment, introductions were made. Kale was listed as a lead field technician. Alira was told she didn't need to concern herself with engineers, but she was already concerned. That night, Alira couldn't sleep. She sat in her private chamber, staring at old drawings she had made as a child. One of them was faded, scratched, but clearly showed a human boy with a broken helmet, holding her hand. She whispered to herself, could it really be him? Meanwhile, Kale sat in his guest quarters, still feeling strange. He pulled a rusted pendant from his travel bag. It was shaped like a leaf, something he'd picked up during that war, long ago. He had no idea why he kept it. He looked at it, then at the night sky outside, and without knowing why, he whispered, "Are you still alive?" Neither of them knew it yet, but their paths were about to twist together again, and this time, nothing would tear them apart. The next morning, Princess Alira walked through the royal archives, pretending to study old ship plans. But her real reason for being there was clear. She knew Kale would be working in that sector today. She wore a formal yet simple gown, not her usual royal armor or crown. She wanted him to see her not as a ruler, but as someone real. When she entered the archive hall, she saw him bent over a starship interface screen, focused on the glowing panels. His sleeves were rolled up, grease on his hands, his jacket hanging nearby. He hadn't noticed her yet. She took a quiet breath and stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said gently. Kale looked up, surprised. His eyes met hers again, and something stirred inside him. That same strange pull he couldn't explain. He stood quickly, wiping his hands on a cloth. "Princess," he said with a respectful nod. "Didn't expect to see you down here." "I like to understand how things work," she replied calmly, walking closer. "My people say I'll be queen soon. I should learn every part of this palace, even the old machines." Kale gave a small smile. "That's smart." There was silence between them for a moment. Not awkward, but heavy. Like both of them wanted to ask something they weren't sure they should. Then she pointed at a device in his hand. "That looks old." "It is," Kale said, holding it up. "One of your ancient power filters, designed 1,000 years ago. Still runs on crystal energy. Strange tech, but beautiful." Alira nodded. "Beautiful things often hide their strength." Kale looked at her with a flicker of something in his eyes, curiosity, maybe, or recognition. "I've seen beauty," he said softly, "that didn't need to hide." For a second, she almost replied, almost asked him, "Do you remember me?" But her throat tightened. She couldn't say it. Not yet. Instead, she looked at the small pendant around his neck, a rusted leaf, hanging from a black thread. Her heart skipped. That leaf, that shape. It was the same symbol she had carved into a tree near the palace wall after the war. A symbol of the boy who saved her. She had made only one like it and given it to him the moment before the soldiers pulled her away. "You kept it?" she asked quietly, her voice cracking. Kale looked confused. "This? I don't even know where I got it. Just found it when I was a kid. I don't know why, but it felt important." Tears burned at the edge of her eyes. She turned away quickly, hiding her face. Kale stepped forward. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," she lied. "Thank you for your work. We appreciate your help." She walked away, quickly, before her emotions showed. Behind her, Kale stared, unsure of what had just happened. Something was rising inside. Him memories that had been buried too deep. A child's scream. A fire. A moment of connection. Later that night, Alira returned to the tree where she had carved that symbol. It was still there, old and weathered, but unchanged. And in that quiet moment, she whispered, "He's alive." The truth was almost too much to believe. Her childhood savior was standing in her palace. And he didn't even know it, but soon he would. Kale couldn't sleep. He lay on the soft guest bed in the palace quarters, staring at the glowing ceiling panels. His hands rested behind his head, but his mind was restless. That strange moment with the princess kept playing in his thoughts, her eyes, the way her voice trembled when she looked at his pendant. There was something she knew. Something he didn't. He sat up, grabbed the leaf-shaped pendant, and studied it again. It wasn't from Earth. That much he was sure of. He had carried it since he was a child, but every time he tried to remember where it came from, his mind stopped just before the answer. A memory half-locked. He whispered, "Who are you?" In another part of the palace, Princess Alira stood on her balcony under the stars. The wind gently moved her hair as she closed her eyes. She had ordered the royal database to pull every record related to the final days of the war, searching for any mention of a human boy found near the palace. But there was nothing. It was as if he had vanished the moment he saved her. No name. No files. Just a ghost with fire in his eyes. Until now. She turned and whispered into her private communicator, "Bring me the engineer Kale's full background, quietly. No one must know." The next day, Kale was called to work on a royal shuttle docked inside the Inner Bay, place usually reserved for the royal fleet only. He thought it was strange, but didn't question it. His team was dismissed early. When he arrived, he found the princess already there, standing beside the shuttle, alone. He paused at the entrance. "You asked for me?" he said cautiously. Alira nodded. "Yes, I have a task." Kale walked closer, unsure of her tone. Her face was calm, but her hands were tight at her sides. "This shuttle," she continued, "is over 100 years old. I want it restored, and I want you to do it alone." Kale raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I want to understand something," she said, "and only you can help." There was silence between them again. He nodded slowly and approached the old shuttle, running his hand along its side. "You know, this model was used during the war. I've only seen one up close once. When I was a child." Alira's heart beat faster. "Where?" "In the forest, near a palace. Everything was burning. I don't remember much, just a little girl. She was crying. I think I helped her escape." She swallowed hard. "You did?" Kale froze. He turned to her sharply. "What? You helped her?" she said, stepping forward. "That girl was me." His eyes widened, his breath caught. For a moment he said nothing. I didn't know for sure until I saw your pendant. She continued, that leaf, I carved it. I gave it to you. Just before they took me away. Kale's mind reeled. The memories he had buried came rushing back, her face, her hand in his, the sound of falling walls. The way she had looked at him with trust no one had ever shown before. It was you. He whispered. Tears filled her eyes. You saved my life. He stepped back, overwhelmed. I didn't even know who you were. I never forgot, she said. All these years, I dreamed of finding you. But you disappeared. My guards couldn't track you. My mother said maybe it was a vision, but I knew you were real. Kale sat down on the shuttle's edge, his legs weak. And now I'm standing in your palace. Now you're back, she said softly. He looked at her, truly looked at her for the first time, not as a princess, not as royalty, but as the little girl who had once gripped his hand and run through fire beside him. For the first time since the war, he smiled not with confusion, but with peace. The old shuttle remained untouched in the hangar as Kale sat on its edge, still processing what the princess had said. Everything made sense now, the strange connection he felt, the dreams, the pendant. But the truth was still hard to believe. He looked up at Alira. You became a princess. And I became a mechanic. You were always more than that, she said softly. Even back then, you were brave. I was just scared, he said with a bitter smile. Scared and trying to protect someone I didn't even know. And yet you did, she replied, sitting beside him. You didn't have to. But you did. For a moment, the hangar was silent except for the low hum of energy fields. Kale glanced at her. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Because I wasn't sure, she answered. I needed to see your eyes again, to feel that moment again. And when I did, I knew. He nodded slowly. I thought about you for years. I didn't know your name. Just flashes of your face, your voice. I didn't even know if you were still alive. Alira smiled gently. You kept that pendant all this time. That tells me your heart never forgot. A quiet pause settled between them again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was warm. Then she stood, brushing the edge of her gown. Kale, I want to ask you something. Not as a princess, but as the girl you saved. He looked up. I've spent my life among people who bow, flatter, and hide their true faces. You didn't. You didn't even know who I was, and still you acted with honor. So now I ask you, will you stay? He blinked. Stay here? Yes. Not just as an engineer, she said. Stay as someone I trust. Someone I want beside me. Kale's heart thudded in his chest. You barely know me. I knew you the moment you took my hand, she said, her voice low and honest. That hasn't changed, he hesitated. I don't belong in a palace. Neither did I once, she replied. But we're both here now. That means something. Before he could answer, the Royal Guard captain appeared at the door with a tight expression. Your Highness, you're needed, urgently. Alira's expression shifted. What's wrong? There's been a breach, the captain said. Not in the palace, but in the orbiting station. One of the Earth ships was accessed without permission. They think someone is trying to sabotage the treaty negotiations. Kale stood up immediately. Who's being blamed? Earth's delegation, the guard replied coldly. Including your engineering team. Alira's eyes narrowed. That's impossible. Kale clenched his fists. They're trying to frame us. The guard glanced at Kale with suspicion, but said nothing. Alira turned to him. We'll fix this. Together. Kale nodded. I'm not leaving, not now. And as the alarm lights began to blink across the hangar walls, both of them knew their story was no longer just about a rescue from the past, that had become something far more dangerous. And far more important. Asterisk, the royal palace was filled with tension. Guards rushed through the halls. Alarms pulsed silently on the communication screens. The Queen's advisors were already discussing emergency actions. And in the middle of it all, Princess Alira stood tall, her eyes sharp, her voice calm. She had called an emergency council meeting and ordered Kale to attend as her guest. Some of the ministers protested. "He is human. His team is under suspicion." "He is not just a human," Alira said clearly. "He is under my protection." Kale stood beside her, uncomfortable under the judgmental stares of noble aliens and military leaders. But he didn't flinch, not anymore. A recording was played. It showed a figure blurry, in human form, entering the orbiting space station. Logs claimed the ID matched one of Earth's engineers. "But that's not me," Kale said. "I was on palace grounds during that time. Can anyone confirm that?" asked a tall noble with folded arms. "I can," Alira answered before anyone else. "He was with me." That caused a quiet stir in the room. "Your Highness," the Queen's advisor said carefully, "this is delicate. The treaty depends on trust. If the Earth engineers are involved in sabotage, war may follow." "I said he was with me," she repeated firmly. "Are you calling me a liar?" The room fell silent. Later, Kale followed Alira through the stone corridors. "You didn't have to speak for me," he said. "Yes, I did," she replied. "I won't let history repeat itself. The last time there was war, you saved me. This time, I'll protect you." Kale stopped walking. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and for the first time, he saw her not as the lost girl or the future queen, but as someone standing between two worlds, trying to hold them both together. "You're risking everything," he said quietly. She stepped closer. "So did you." They were so close now, her voice was soft. "I don't want to lose you again." He didn't answer. He couldn't. His heart was too full. So instead, he reached into his coat and took out the pendant she had given him as a child. "I kept this," he said, "even when I didn't know why. Maybe because I was waiting to remember." She took the pendant gently, running her fingers over the leaf-shaped metal. Then she looked up and whispered, "I remember everything." Suddenly, a voice crackled through the palace alert system. "Urgent message, unauthorized vessel approaching from the dark side of the moon. Possible enemy craft. Security teams mobilize immediately." Kale and Alira locked eyes. "This wasn't sabotage," he said. "It was a setup, a distraction." "They want us to fight each other," she whispered. Kale clenched his fists. "Then we don't give them what they want," she nodded. "Come with me. We're going to end this together." And as they ran through the corridor toward the command center, the stars above began to shift. War was no longer a shadow of the past. It was returning. And this time, they would face it side by side. The palace command center was alive with tension. Maps flickered. Officers shouted commands. Alien warships were moving into defensive formation around Elenara's orbit. Princess Alira stepped in with Kale beside her, both dressed not as symbols, but as leaders. She wore her light battle armor, silver and green, the royal crest shining on her shoulder. Kale had slipped back into his old gear, repaired and reinforced. They were ready for whatever came next. A massive enemy vessel had appeared near the moon's shadow. No flag, no answers. But its weapons were fully charged. Whoever sent it wanted to ignite chaos. Alira spoke calmly to the command table. "Open a direct channel. Let me speak first." Kale stepped closer. "Let me come with you." She looked at him. "If something happens to me, I didn't leave you last time," he said. "I won't now." The channel opened. A harsh, alien voice filled the room. "You let Earth inside your palace, and now you face the price. Surrender, or we destroy your legacy." Kale leaned forward. "I'm from Earth, and we're not here to take anything. But if you fire on this planet, I swear you'll face us both." There was a pause. The voice sneered. "You're just a human." Alira stepped beside Kale, eyes burning with strength. He's not just a human. He's the one who saved the future queen of Elenara, and now he fights for peace. The enemy ship did not fire. Instead, it powered down. Alira ordered a team of ships to escort the vessel into orbit for questioning. No war, no blood, only truth. Later that evening, the skies over the palace turned gold as the sun set. Alira stood in the garden, looking at the stars that had once hidden the boy who saved her. Now, he stood beside her again, not as a memory, not as a stranger, but as something far more. She turned to him. "You were never lost, Kale. Just waiting to be found again," he smiled. "I didn't save you to be remembered. I saved you because it felt right." She took his hand, just like she had all those years ago. "You saved me once," she whispered. "Let me save you now. Stay here with me." He looked into her eyes, the same eyes he had once seen filled with tears and fire, and nodded. "I will." The wind moved gently through the trees. No alarms, no warships. Just peace, for the first time in a long time, both human and alien hearts rested. Dot and the little girl and boy, once lost in the smoke of war, were together again, this time, with nothing left to fear. Their story had begun in fire, but it ended in love.